welcome to TechFunnel.com's interview series. My name is Danny White, and today we have the opportunity to talk to Anna Talerico. Anna is a SaaS entrepreneur who loves giving practical advice about sales, management, company culture, customer success, and capital efficiency. At her former company, she led customer-facing teams, which included sales, customer success, professional services, and product support. When that company was acquired in 2017, she co-founded Beacon9 to help other tech companies chart their successful paths forward in these same areas. Welcome, Anna. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here.
Awesome. So tell us a little bit about your journey as a SaaS entrepreneur, co-founding Ion Interactive, and now today as the co-founder of SaaSX and Beacon9.
Yeah. So we started Ion Interactive really as a custom web development shop. And over time, we found ourselves building the same thing over and over for different clients. So we were doing custom work. And at one point, after we had built sort of this machine to make landing pages and microsites several times for several different clients, we said, maybe we should just build this in a way that we could sell to a lot of different customers. And that really was our foray into SaaS. And then we sort of wound down the web development business and really launched the SaaS. It was kind of like changing the engine on the plane mid-flight. And so that was kind of the first step. And then after Ion was acquired, we started blogging a lot. Justin, my partner, and I at SaaSX.com, we do a lot of just about our experience, both at Ion and then with our clients that we do advisory work for. And then sort of so we're at SaaSX blogging all the time. We have Beacon9, our SaaS advisory, where we do a lot of consulting and workshops and things like that for growing SaaS companies. And then I've just recently taken a position actually as a chief operating officer of a SaaS called LinuxAcademy.com. So,
oh, wow. Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks. So quite the evolution, definitely.
Definitely. So for many SaaS-based companies, the enterprise client is like quite attractive. What do sales representatives need to know to start selling their SaaS products to this level of clientele?
So in a lot of ways, the sales process is the same. We're selling to buyers, we're selling to humans, that are making their decisions through a variety of criteria, some rational, some emotional. But when we get into the procurement phase is really where we start to shift. During the sales cycle, we're probably going to have a larger group of stakeholders, so different roles and different people coming in with different perspectives. So we are going to sell to like a larger group, but the real difference gets to that procurement phase where we might have to review custom contracts, master service agreements. It's like the enterprise buyer likely isn't going to be clicking through online terms and conditions, and they're going to want custom terms and conditions. We're going to usually have to do some sort of security review, like these big 500 question assessments of that one know everything about your company. And then just can be some extended processes that could take quite a while. And sometimes the enterprise is set up to push those things through really quickly. Other times it can take weeks just to turn a document around. So we kind of have to be prepared for that and keeping the momentum behind the deal while we're kind of stuck in those procurement steps. But I think selling is selling. So a lot of the same principles that I've found in enterprise are the same for SMB.
Absolutely. So how valuable is it during that process to have a framework for sales to work from when they're in the SaaS focused market?
So important. I think there's two pieces of that. One, that SaaS specific is always going back to why somebody is purchasing this, because it's easy to lose sight of that. As soon as you kind of get mired in 60-page contracts and big security assessments, it's a lot of work for an enterprise buyer to buy something. So we have to keep the momentum going from behind the deal of sort of why they're buying it, what the business need, that you're solving is, how we can, accelerate getting things going with the product. And maybe you're staying in a trial during the enterprise, sort of procurement process, things like that. So I think there is sort of having to always be rooted in the business problem you're solving and why the buyer is buying it, and keeping that dialogue going the entire time. But then the other piece, which is just enterprise sales in general, but I think a lot of SaaS salespeople fall down in is really understanding what the procurement process is going to be like. So a lot of times the dialogue will go something like the buyer says, okay, we're ready to buy. I'm just going to send it to procurement. And a salesperson is like, great, okay. And then they put it in their forecast for the month. And I think it's just that simple without really saying, and exploring, well, what does that mean? Who's going to be involved? What are the steps going to be? How long do those things take? And even just knowing, do you have an experienced buyer who's bought things like this before and they know how to do it? Or are you going to be walking through procurement with somebody who's never bought a SaaS before? And there's a lot of, sort of pitfalls there. So I think you have to have a framework for really understanding and walking in detail with your buyer. But also you always have to root back to business need. And because SaaS can be so instant, right? I'm demoing it, I'm deciding these, I'm seeing sort of what it's going to be like. We forget the basics, and the basics are always like, what is the business problem we're solving? What is the priority level of purchasing this, so that we can be keeping that at the top of our buyer's mind too.
Absolutely. So you advocate for sales leaders creating this type of game plan to help guide each member of their sales team. What does such a guidebook look like, and how can sales leaders get started if they don't have one?
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in sales playbooks. I think in sort of guidebooks like that. I think the reason is that it's really easy to have institutional knowledge floating around with your team and thinking that everybody is executing on it and everybody's following it and everybody knows. But there's something about codifying it into a playbook that really changes how it's used as a cultural tool, how it's used to onboard and train reps. So I think you have to have, sort of plays documented for every part, from onboarding a rep all the way through to, purchasing, and getting through procurement, and be using that all the time in your pipeline reviews and your opportunity huddles and your team meetings and your one-on-one meetings to, if somebody's saying, okay, this deal is going to procurement, for example, pulling that playbook up and going, okay, what are the answers to these questions? Then we can find the gaps. Oh, you didn't ask that? Well, we need to know that. And so using it as a coaching tool, everything from the first call, the cold call, all the way through to the close. These playbooks, by having things codified, it helps reinforce the best practices. It helps ensure that the whole team is doing everything consistently and in the same way. And can really, really drive pretty radical improvements, even in teams that are already doing really well.
Absolutely. So along with that, what are some of the questions that sales leaders should really be asking or having discussions around that can help them assess the maturity of their sales teams?
Yeah, so I think a lot of it is just asking. It's sort of, in a way, similar to what we're asking as sales professionals, what we're asking of our prospects. We just have to be asking really good questions and then doing it in a probing and curious way, right? And I think a really good example actually is what I remember very early on in my sales career, when I was just becoming a sales leader. I was shadowing a call with one of my reps, and it was a good call. We did a demo of the product, and they said they wanted to go to a trial, which was great. And we said, great, what has to happen now? And he said, the prospect said, well, we just have to go get our ducks in a row, and then we'll be back and we'll do the trial. And we were like, great, that sounds perfect. And then I was talking to my sales coach who was working with me on developing my sales leadership skills. And he said, well, what does get your ducks in a row mean? What does the prospect mean by that? And I was like, I don't know. That's a good question. So that really informed everything about my coaching with my reps, because I saw how easy it was even for me to do that with the prospect. So it's really asking those questions. And the more that we do that of our reps and saying, well, what does that mean? Or what did they say? Why did they say that? What did they mean when they said that? The more we train our reps to have really good conversations with their prospects. So I think a lot of it is just how we probe and use curiosity, and don't take generalizations, because that'll kill you.
Absolutely. So you've been in the business for a long time. I'm sure you've seen all the good things that can be done and then some of the bad things that have been done or haven't been done right. What are some of the common mistakes surrounding strategy that you see in SaaS-based company leaders?
So I think a part of it is not doing enough skill development, right? So there is a SaaS playbook. We've got SDRs who call and book appointments, and those appointments go to reps, and then we get on the phone and we, do a demo, and then, go to evaluation. Like, there's just a playbook, and 80% of it does apply to every SaaS, but it's the 20% where we can fall down and forget that we need to do skill development. We need to be constantly working on how to give a great demo, even when our demos are going well. We need to constantly be talking about how to do a great discovery call, and always looking at our sales process and refining that too. Where are things getting stuck? Where are people dropping off? I think that is just the fundamentals. And then I think too, in SaaS, we often forget to put ourselves in our buyer's shoes, right? So we have this playbook, and the SDR books a call, and then they do a little pre-qualification, and they pass it to a buyer. Well, that's not often a great experience, right? We all do that playbook, but like, the buyers see through it. They know they have to jump through this hoop before they can actually talk to a sales rep. They know they're going to have to answer all these qualifying questions. So I think the number one thing we can do in SaaS, and it really applies to just modern selling, is teach our entire team to know how to meet the buyer at their point of interest. We have buyers who we're going to cold call, and they're not going to know anything about our space. On the opposite end, we might have a buyer we cold call that's in the middle of evaluating, our exact solutions. And then we have leads coming in that, they downloaded a white paper, and they did this or they did that. They read a blog post. So we have we just have this universe of prospects that could be anywhere in their awareness. And if we just force all of those conversations through the same rote, pre-qualifying questions, it's a really bad buyer experience. So I think the number one thing we have to do in SaaS and anything else in modern selling is really teach listening skills, and empathy, and how do we figure out where in that funnel that buyer is, so we can meet them there and not force them through our qualification hoops or, our standard sales process. We need to connect with buyers where they're at, and that's super important.
Awesome. Very good point. On a personal level, what's one thing that you now know about sales and about the SaaS-based market that you wish you knew when you first started in the industry?
So many things. I will tell you right now, the big drum I'm beating is demoing, right? Like, SaaS demos are so bad. All of us we yammer on, we show every feature, we, don't hit the business pain points. I mean, just sitting through, it's so rare to sit through a great SaaS demo. So I think demos, number one, I remember demos, I sat there and talked for an hour and showed every feature and thought that I nailed it, but horrible. So I think this sort of demo skills would be a big one for me. I think the other thing is not meeting the buyer where they're at, not knowing sort of how to quickly assess, is somebody really deep, they're aware of the space, they're aware of the problem, or they're, way up here and they're not. So I think that's a big one as well, for sure. But in SaaS, the demo and making assumptions about, that people are going to get it, right? We're so in SaaS that we just think everybody gets it.
Everyone gets it, yeah.
And I think that's just that we make a lot of assumptions that way and sort of missteps.
Awesome. Final question. What's the best advice you've received professionally in your life?
So there's a guy named Jim Keenan. He's written a book. He writes blogs. He's pretty bombastic. He's definitely not safe for work, but he was one of my first sales coaches. And in many ways, he made me the sales leader I am. And his advice was that you have to hold people accountable, right? And you have to make commitments. And sales is not art. There's certainly magic in it, but it's also science. And so, you have to hold people accountable for the number of calls they're going to make, or the number of emails they're going to send, the number of deals they're going to close in a month. Like, that we don't have to do these things on hope, like we can do them based on evidence. And that was very sort of foundational for me to shift my mindset of if somebody, I can ask somebody, how many deals are you going to bring in this month? And then I can expect them to bring that in. And I can, when they didn't, I can unpack that with them. And, so I think he just really taught me it's okay to hold salespeople accountable and have them commit. But that's the thing, that they have to commit. It's not me going, go close 5 deals this month.
Right.
The salesperson, that's a big part of it, is that he taught me the salesperson has to think through their business and what they can deliver. So it's less about telling, them what to do. That was a big part of it too.
Awesome. Awesome advice. Anna, thank you so much for stopping by to share your insights, your knowledge with us. We really do appreciate it. Where can people find out more about you and your company?
Sure. So Twitter, I'm always on Twitter at Anna Talerico. And you can also check out SaaSX.com, which is an easy way to get a hold of me. And again, we're blogging all the time and posting lots of SaaS resources there and tools and things like that. So that's just SaaSX.com.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Anna. We appreciate your time today. Guys, thanks for listening to this interview. For these and other interviews and topics, you can visit us at techfunnel.com. You can connect with us across social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our weekly newsletter so you can stay up to date on everything that's happening in the industry. Thank you again, Anna.
Thank you.